Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new version of That's So Matthew. As you all know, I am kind of in this rebrand where I'm no longer solely focused on Disney Channel. However, I have branched out into all sorts of nostalgic movies with some amazing guests. And I feel like today's movie and guest was the perfect fit for the first episode back. So, Bob, say hi, introduce yourself, and tell everyone what we're going to talk about today.
Well, I'm Bob, and if you're a regular of this podcast, you already know who I am. But I host a pop culture podcast called the DJ Bob Show, very similar to that Kill Matthew. And I'm so excited to be here to talk about. Now, what I'm about to say is controversial. One of my favorite films. Because there are so many people that hate this movie, and it's Good Burger from 1997.
I mean, I don't see why they should be hating on it. I mean, it's definitely a good movie. I thoroughly enjoyed myself watching this.
It's weird. Like, it's a weird movie, but you kind of get into it after a while.
No, I literally, that's, as we'll talk about a little bit more, but as we, like, kind of get into it, when you had told me that you wanted to talk about this film, I was kind of, like, into it because, one, it's a Nickelodeon film, which I think is super funny because I was a solely Disney Channel focused podcast, so I felt like this was a natural transition, you
And
know?
you know how significant this movie was for me. So I had to talk about it here.
Yeah, I think that you were the perfect guest for this movie, and this is the perfect way to truly like start back up. And I am so excited. But I was a little nervous, I'll be honest, but I am so just enthralled to talk about it because you're right, it's a good but bad movie.
And if I can kind of ask you a question, 'cause I'm just
Sure.
thinking about it now. So you were born in what, 2004, right?
Yes, 2004.
So you missed what this is based on, which is all that, the Nickelodeon show, and because this was based off a sketch of the sketch comedy series, all that on Nickelodeon, and they realized that Keenan and Kel worked together so well that they gave them their own show, and then they gave them this film based on this sketch. So, did you know any of that, or did you just think of it as a standalone movie?
I did know a little bit about the history of all that and how it played in, but I did not know that it was like that significant, like to like the whole storyline. Because I did notice that it was Dan Schneider who like is one of the main people that worked on this movie, which worked
He's in
on,
it too.
yeah, he was in it. He Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, Zoe 101, iCarly, Victoria, Sim and Cat, you know, Game Shakers, literally like every single Nickelodeon show like under the sun, he was a part of. So I kind of just thought that this was kind of like his big break, but now that you like have kind of explained it, and I'm gonna be honest, I've never seen the OG all that. I have seen some of the newer one.
Oh, I'm gonna educate you after this.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna need to be educated for sure.
That's right, yeah. And also, I don't know if you realize this, but this is on a completely different topic, but you helped me do a graphic for Good Burger.
I do remember that.
Remember?
I do remember that.
So you, so because the guy that wrote this movie, Kevin Coppola, um, he created all Sin and Alley too. So it all ties in, and we're gonna get into that. But
Yes,
uh,
definitely.
so I'm excited.
Yes, let's go for it. So, as always, we'll start off with our overview. So, Good Burger came out in 1997 on July 25th. And it stars Keenan and Cal, who are, I feel like, just Nickelodeon icons for sure.
Yep, sure.
Like you said, it is based off of the All That series. And honestly, I think the fact that ties this all together is we said this before we like officially started recording, but it feels not like a Nickelodeon original movie just due to like some of the content nature. They did like swear a couple times, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
yeah, they did. And it's interesting because there's a part in this movie, which I will talk at length when we get to it, that there's a TV edit for their own movie, which I thought was very funny. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, it was
they took a lot.
definitely
They took a lot of liberties with this movie, and it really showed.
for sure. I think that that's kind of like what made this movie like special is
Mm-hmm.
it didn't
For sure.
feel like an original movie
Okay.
for a kids channel.
Well, you knew this was, and you knew this was a theatrical film too, and it didn't really do that well. But the kids that grew up on it, like if they saw it in theaters, they remember when they saw, like it's like this big cult thing, and just to be real, this movie impacted me so much because it influenced a lot of my humor with like the puns and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, this movie means a lot to me. I'm wearing a Good Burger shirt and a Good Burger hat right now, so there's it's such a big part of my life, and that sounds really stupid, but it's true.
I mean, I feel like every single person under the face of this earth has one movie that just impacted them that will forever be with them. So I feel like it's not like uncommon. And I think that
No,
it
I know, but this movie, I mean, there are other movies that I love to death, but like this one has a special place in my heart because it's one of the first movies that I remember actively like wanting. Like I begged my mom to buy it for me at the store, and we went to like five different stores to find the DVD. Like it was like it it changed my life
for
when
sure.
I was a kid when I first saw it. So
Yeah, no, I think that it's even better that this is that movie for you because it's such an iconic film.
it is. Let's
Awesome.
get into it.
Let's do it. So obviously our first character is Ed, who is like the main character of this movie, played by Cal Mitchell. And so my favorite part of this movie is this reoccurring gag, I guess you could say, that happens like 500 times. It's like, welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger.
Home of
What
the
can I
good
get
burger.
you today? Yeah.
Can I take your order? Yeah,
And
yeah.
it
Mhm.
happens like so many times. And so usually when they like in movies, specifically like movies kind of similar to this, when they do it over and over again, it is like the bane of my existence.
No, he flips it every time.
It's so funny. Like the last line of this movie is that, and I think it just makes it so.
And he's like, well, I guess there's only one thing left to say. And he's like really capping it off. But he he's so good in this. And I just love that he falls asleep in his Good Burger outfit, in his uniform.
Yeah, it's like
You
his
notice that?
entire life. Like
You
Good
notice
Burger.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is his
I
entire
love.
life. And it I love the like the way that he's portrayed as kind of like this idiot who saves the day with his special secret sauce.
Yeah. I mean, I love how there's a really, I don't know if we're doing it like scene by scene, but there's a really touching moment where Dexter talks to him about his dad, and he's like, my dad got me this yo-yo or whatever it was,
Yes, I
right?
do remember.
And he's like, well, he said, and Kel or Ed goes, I don't know what my dad looks like either, but at least I get to see him every day. Like, it's such a stupid line, but
It works though.
you kind of feel for him. Like,
Yeah, usually when the main characters are like dumb and idiotic, it's like kind of not funny, but it just worked so well in this movie. And just the way that he like interacts with like his coworkers and his boss throughout the film is kind of just like the cherry on top of like the stupid humor, but it works, you know?
yeah. Can we talk about the opening? Cause with the puppets and stuff.
Yes,
'Cause
we can talk about the opening.
what did you think?
I was a little nervous, to be honest with you, when it kind of started, because, like I said, I was a little skeptical. And so when this was like one of the first things that I saw on the screen, I was like, oh,
What are you?
what is
Yeah,
going on? I was not expecting that. But I think even after that, like kind of like start, each scene progressively had me questioning what was going on. And then by the end, it was like, I loved it.
you're like, oh, I get why he likes this.
Yeah,
Like,
no, it's funny. Like it's just funny, and one of my favorite things about this movie is how it's basically like mocking fast food the entire time, and just the way that like the people, like the stereotypical workers that work at this restaurant, like how they go about their day. And Dan
yeah,
Schneider was in this, which I think is very interesting because I feel like it was surprisingly an interesting role for him because
yeah.
I didn't know that he was like into acting. Like I know he's made like some guest appearances on like
Oh no,
iCarly and all that.
he was an actor in the '80s. He was
Wow.
on a sitcom, and I haven't seen it, but I know that he and actually he and the other producer of this movie, Brian Robbins, were on this show together. So they went to Nick and brought all that to them. So that's pretty cool. Um,
Yeah. But I think another character, which I think is like iconic, is Dexter, who is played by Keenan.
I
Uh,
love Dexter.
he is like hilarious for to me at least. I mean, I feel like it's one of those characters where like you either like love him or you hate him. But for me, I just loved him. I think that his attitude about like working in fast food, because he originally got fired from the competition
Mondo
store,
Burger.
Mondo Burger. So he goes over
Oh
to
my
this
god, I
other
hate that
one.
guy. I hate that guy. Kurt. I hate
Or
him.
yeah, okay. My question is like why is it called Mondo Burger?
Cause Mondo is means big, and their burgers are like
Yeah,
extra
they're
big because of that.
huge.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it and the whole thing about his go grinder, the whole grinder thing. He's like okay, all right.
It was definitely a reoccurring joke that I feel like was fine to start off with, but as soon as it like
I love the joke at the end, though. When you make a good burger, you go in the grinder. Like that.
yeah, that was good. But like I feel like some of them leading up to it, I was like, how many more times are they gonna mention this grinder?
Well, they only mentioned it like 4 times in that scene, and like yeah, they never said it again. Um,
Yeah. No,
but
Dexter
yeah,
is hilarious. The only thing I did not like about him is like him taking away from like Ed's success with the sauce. Like I understand like he's like trying to
I know
make
why he
money.
did it. I know why he did it. Well, because he's a problematic teenager. Like he had to get money somewhere,
Yeah,
and
no, I feel
he
like that's exactly why he did it. And it's
no, like he's not a bad person, but I still don't like what he did to Ed.
yeah, it just didn't feel right for like his success to just kind of be diminished and like take away that money. Like he was seeking a good like I forgot what the exact agreement was, But it was like a good chunk of money from him, and I didn't too much care for that.
My favorite part of that whole contract scene is Ed when he goes, mm-hmm, yeah, mm-hmm. I know some of these words. Like it's like it's
He's
like
such like a
words.
dumb blonde, but not a dumb blonde.
I love him.
I do too.
Oh
And
my
he like portrays the character like so well. Like I haven't seen too much of what else Cal has been involved in besides like Game Shakers.
yeah. I would glad that he came back for that because yeah, he's a legend.
No, I remember Game Shakers, which I feel like is a whole nother thing for a whole nother
I
time.
love Game Shake. I love Game
I
Shakers.
liked it, and I think the part that like was
And
the cherry on top.
he also did the theme song for it.
Yeah,
Um,
it was like a good show. Like it also premiered on my birthday, so I am slightly biased,
oh my god, I had a premiere party when it premiered.
as
I
you
was so
should.
hyped.
I know
Uh,
I remember my grandparents were over at my house for the party, and I was like, we have to watch this show. Nickelodeon is premiering a show on my birthday, and we definitely did it. You bet we did it. They weren't
it's a
as big of
good
a
show.
fan as I was, for sure, but
That
I thought it
show
was
was
great.
so good. I loved it. But back
Yeah,
to Good Burger.
back to
But
Good Burger because you know we will go off on a tangent forever and a day.
we will. That's what we do.
So one of so since we've kind of like covered our two main characters, there are some other characters like Kurt, which we've already established we did not like. He just bothered us both.
Oh, yeah.
But I think one of my favorites, and I'm not really sure why it was my favorite because he was just there really honestly for like comedic relief, was Otis, who's like the old guy who makes the fries.
Oh, okay. I'll do my impression. I should have died years ago.
When they like panned over on him holding the fry basket with a ventilator on, I was losing it. It was
And then,
so funny. And for what? Like it they're mocking old people, but it was funny.
and rest in peace, Abe Vigoda, classic actor, The Godfather, all that stuff. And then you do this kids movie, and it is just the weirdest contrast of like acting ability, but it's great.
No, I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. As well as the one character, his Spatch, so who's like the head like cook, I
He,
guess.
I never, I that I love that movie, but he always creeped me out.
No, I that's exactly where I was going. I was like slightly afraid of him.
Like he should have ended up in the spoiler alert. He should have ended up in the Demented Hills.
Yeah, my also when we get to that part, my question is what on earth was happening in that scene? Like it felt like a fever dream.
But I love it.
Yeah. No.
The
As well
dance
as we
number.
also have Monique, who is like kind of the love interest of Dexter.
Oh, I love that. And as a Britney fan, you'll be happy to know that she was married, I think, at one point to Kevin Federline after Britney.
Wow.
So that's interesting.
No, I thought it was
That's
so hilarious how Dexter literally like came in, was in there for like 2 seconds, and then was already flirting with her.
oh yeah, he knew what he wanted.
Yeah, he was very direct throughout this movie about what he did and did not want.
Yeah,
And he
and
was not afraid to reach for it either.
what do you think of the teacher though?
Oh, okay. Low key, I thought
I
he was
love him,
I was gonna say I love him, and I thought it was funny because it just was like a interesting like character like choice, you know? Because like realistically, he's not like a lead of this movie, but they took like choices on him that worked.
I love the actor who plays him, Sinbad. He was in the '90s. He was like in everything. So to see him in this was he was in Jingle All the Way. I don't know if you've seen Jingle All the Way, but he
I
played
have definitely.
the mailman in it that is fighting for that toy with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Um, but so he was in everything. Um, and to see him as like this teacher who's also obsessed with something from 20 years ago, the 70s, and like it's so crazy. Like he's so good.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a great performance. I feel like there was not one person in this movie who did not have like a great like performance, honestly.
Yeah.
It just
Um,
everyone in this movie just made the movie just that much better.
my one of my favorite moments in this film is the we're talking about the puppet earlier. It's
Yes.
just so weird. But then there's the open where he's rollerblading, and that's why. Guess we didn't really get into that as to he why Dexter runs into Ed in the first place.
Mm-hmm. It was one of those
Um,
like it you'll see later kind of scenes. Like I love kind of like that thing where like we get like a scene in a movie and we're kind of like a little confused, you know.
you're like, wait, what happened?
And
Yeah,
then you go back to it later in the movie and then it just makes so much more sense.
totally.
And that was a great example. And it also kind of explains one why he needed to get a job, what kind of that was all about.
And then you never forget the classic line from Sinbad, "My afro."
My afro. No.
I
I
love
loved
it.
how he literally just looked like a guy straight out of the 70s the entire time. Like, and this took place in the late 90s.
Well, if you really think about it, the late '90s, the '70s was 20 years ago.
Yeah. That's like
So
the 90s right now, 20 years ago. Actually, more than that,
yeah,
actually.
it's so weird.
No, the fact that this
So
episode is coming out in 2022 is a little scary, if you ask me.
I know we're getting old.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still pretty young, but I mean, every
No,
second.
yes, but yeah, Sinbad is just great. So what else you got?
Honestly, unless there's another specific character that you would like to talk about, or if you have any history you would like to give before we
Oh,
get into the
well,
plot, that's about it for characters.
the one thing I will say is that when Good Burger came out, there was a novel based on it. You know how they do those
Oh, yes.
novelizations.
Mm-hmm.
So like one of the main movie, and then there's a sequel called Good Burger to Go, um, where it's like what happens after. So that could have been a sequel type thing, but it never got made. But so they made it into a book.
Okay. So obviously, first off, Dexter is established as kind of like a slacker. He's kind of just a hot mess. He's kind of just having like a life crisis at like 15, I think they said he is.
Yeah,
And so he's driving around in his mother's car, and then he gets into a car
because
accident.
she's on a business trip, so he thinks that he's living the high life. It's the last day of school, you know.
I mean, we've all been there and done that, kind of, I guess. And so he gets into a car accident with his teacher, who we were just talking about, the Afro, Mr. Wheat. Um, every time I hear like wheat, I don't think of bread. I think of mini wheats, like the cereal.
I feel that.
And it just brought me back when I heard that in this movie. I was laughing because I
You're
have
like,
not had them in so long.
that made you nostalgic for breakfast cereal.
Oh yes, we gotta love that nostalgia. That's why we're a nostalgia podcast, right here, right now. Um,
You're gonna do an episode about cereal next?
I might
Like
just have to, you know, if
okay.
people are interested
Uh,
in that. Uh, so he does not have a driver's license or car insurance. So he might go to jail at 15. And then he like kind of freaks out, as I think all of us would, to be honest with you. So he is like, you can pay for the damage. It but oh sorry, I need to rephrase that. I won't call the police if you were able to pay for the damage. So Dexter's kind of in like a hot mess situation because how is he going to come up with? I think it was like almost $2,000.
I think it was like 2,500. Yeah, like
It was it's definitely a lot more than Dexter could probably.
I can hear him saying it. I'm going through the movie in my head. Hold on. $2,500.
Yeah, it
That's what it was.
definitely is a lot of money. So you got to make that somehow. So get a job. He decides to go get a job at Mondo Burger.
Which isn't even open yet. They're in their training.
So we kind of go away from what do you call the Mondo Burger and Dexter plot, and we get introduced to Good Burger, which is essentially, I guess, like McDonald's.
Yeah, it's like a homegrown. It's been there since like I think the late 50s. Like we don't know, but it's sort of like a mom and pop type place, but
Yeah.
people know it in the it's an institution.
Yeah. So he we get the iconic welcome to Good Burger, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
see the whole gang of people that work at this restaurant, and they're all like disgusting and characters in their own way for sure.
Yeah.
And so this guy is at the counter and he's like, if you don't come take my order in like 5 seconds.
Oh, I love him.
I'm gonna call the manager. And so then all of a sudden, Ed just goes, rolls in.
And then Ed goes, but the manager already knows my he's
so clueless. So clueless.
I'll see you in hell. Okay.
That was so hilarious. No, I loved the like the Karens that they had to deal with throughout this film for sure.
Yeah.
So we get through that whole scene kind of, and they're like, well, we can't wait till Mondo Burger opens up. And then we pan over to this giant, huge restaurant.
Like this corporate, like, you can tell, millions of dollars we put into this.
And so it's kind of funny because I don't understand why it was so big, because it's like has nothing, no reason being that big. I think it just wants to be like fancy and cool, So they are like panicking, and that's when we go and see what's going on inside Mondo Burger, which is where Dexter is getting in trouble essentially, and he is called a reject and then gets carried out because he did something wrong.
He's like, I love it. He's like, I'm sorry I uttered. It's like Kurt, like, oh yeah, what do you think of Kurt is now both your mother and your father?
I laughed because I don't really understand the joke.
And then Dexter's like, Kurt must look awfully strange and naked. Like,
like it was just stupid humor like that I think just made it the time to be alive.
But you hear that I'm quoting it, so it's like, it's good.
Yeah, no, for sure. Actually love it. So from there, I think that this is when it starts to get like good, because they find out, or not they, I should say, Kurt and Ed. No, not Kurt and Ed. Dexter and Ed cross paths once again, and so they become friends, and he gets a job at Good Burger instead of Mondo Burger, making $5 an hour, which is pathetic.
But for Ed, you know,
That's all he needs, really.
and Ed gave him the job. You're like, okay.
Yeah, and so from there, Dexter does come to realize that Ed is the one who did cause the accident. So we had that go back to the original
God, I love that. I love
scene.
that scene.
And it is honestly just a really interesting like time from there, because then they're like, are we friends? Are we not friends? You're the one that is causing me all of this trouble. And we get some like
And you
tension.
know, Ed is probably not comprehending half of this.
No,
Like,
Ed is not comprehending like anything at all. And so we get to where they're going to be opening Good Burger, or not Good Burger, Mondo Burger. I'm just a little slightly confused at this point. So they have huge burgers, and they do this grand opening, and their grand opening takes so much power that the power at Good Burger goes out. And so
they
essentially
all gotta go home.
they got to go home. And so then Mondo Burger thinks that they've won and that Good Burger is forever going to be done. However, this is not even scratching the surface of this movie. So what
No.
do? They have to come up with a way to be on
Bring the
track.
customers back, yeah. So somehow, I guess Ed is in the kitchen, and he's like, no, he's having a Good Burger during his lunch break, and he has this little jar of sauce, and Dexter tries it, and he goes, "Oh, this is good." And you hear like a ding, you hear like a money, like a cash, and and Dexter's like, "Oh, this could make us money," and it did.
It makes them a lot of
Um,
money. It really is like fixing up everything for them.
yeah, and we know it's made out of lemon juice, but we don't know anything else about it. It looks pretty good though.
Yeah, it does. It basically is making fun of like the McDonald's and other restaurant secret sauce. Which is funny because I don't know if I ever told you, but when I was in the Alien play about a month ago, there was a whole scene in the show where my character was at a fast food restaurant and one was wondering what was in the special secret sauce.
So this is going right back. This is method for you.
Yeah,
This
this
is
this was right up my alley. I thought it was hilarious when I this started occurring in the movie. Um, so Dexter cons Ed into giving him money for part of the profit that he's making, which I think is absolutely horrible. But whatever. I wasn't the one who decided to scam this dude. And so he wants to pay off the debt sooner, so he cons him and he signs a contract, and I think he gives him like 75-80% of the bonus that he receives.
yeah.
And then this one girl like comes in and like asks what's in the sauce or something. And then Dexter's like, you can't tell anyone what's in the sauce. And like they have this whole thing, and Ed is literally not comprehending why he can't tell anyone. He's just
Oh,
in his
is
own
this?
world.
And speaking of that, can we talk about Roxanne?
Oh my goodness. I was a little shocked about Roxanne, to be honest with you.
I love that whole thing. So she comes in and Ed is so stupid that he, goes on a date with her and the whole. It is so strange, but and played by famous model at the time, Carmen Electra. And it is so weird. It's just weird, but endearing.
Yeah, and she's like this, like she's meant to be like this sexy like girl. Like it's a really interesting thing, and it's all set up by the Mondo Burger jerks, honestly.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so
Cause they
obviously
want,
Ed
cause
is
they want,
clueless.
they want the song, so they'll do anything that they can to get it, which includes Roxanne.
Yeah, Roxanne was definitely a time to be alive. I thought it was hilarious, honestly. And Ed is literally just shocked. He's just like, oh my gosh, this girl's into me, and is literally as clueless as ever. So but
And
I
then there's
think
that whole scene in the with the golf ball and
oh,
the
and then Roxanne is like knocked out in the car, which I thought was hilarious.
and then she finally gets back to Mondo Burger and she's like, I quit. I don't blame her. Like,
Yeah. But I
dude,
think the next part is where I get really, really intrigued, because we're finally figuring out why people are loving Mondo Burger and hating Good Burger, even with the special secret sauce. So they have this dog, and I'm not really sure where it came from and how this all came about. But this dog will only eat the Good Burger and not the Mondo Burger, and so they're like, something's up. So they go to find out that there's like, they've been, how do I say this, like using an artificial chemical, I believe is the best way
yeah,
to say it.
shark poison.
Yeah.
Remember? Cause
Yeah.
yeah,
And so he like discovers it, and then they call like an asylum, but it then they get put in the asylum, which is called Demented Hills, which is a very interesting name.
I love. Okay, there's nothing I love more in this movie. I love this movie. You've heard me talk about it. This is why I'm here. But the scenes with Ed and Heather are so stupid but so satisfying.
Yeah, I can agree with that for sure.
Like, you have a nice shaped head too. And you're like, what?
What? It was
And yeah.
cute for sure. Like it was a really the a whole Demented Hills thing. I'm not really sure like what was going on.
What do you think of the dance number?
I was shocked.
I love that.
This whole movie, low key, looking back at it now, like feels like a fever dream.
But it's a good fever dream.
No, it is. It's just funny because it's definitely nowhere close to what I was expecting it to be in a good way.
It's one of those things where I feel like most people in your generation or younger wouldn't grasp it because it is so off the wall and zany.
Yeah. No, I loved it. I thought it was great. As
Yeah.
I've been telling for the past like 20-30 minutes. So but this movie is nowhere even close to done, because the Mondo Burger idiots need to come in and futz with the sauce. And so they put in shark poison, which is very kind of dark. It's definitely a departure.
And they're all in like black attire and like like you doing a robbery? Like
Yeah, no, it was definitely hilarious and how they thought they were. And so
oh my god, and then Otis, we gotta talk about Otis in that.
yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. Otis like catches them, and then they're like, oh, he's gonna die like any second. And so Otis tells Ed and Dexter, and so they escape from the Demented Hills place. They take an ice cream truck to go to Good Burger to prevent anyone from eating this sauce. It was the chase scene of the century.
It is wonderful. Hey, look, I got fudge pops. He's like, well, I don't want no tasty treats right now. It's like, And it's just
No, so funny. So funny. I was obsessed with it. And so they break into Mondo Burger and they call the police and they they knock another one into the grinder, which we've heard about this entire movie.
and
And
but now it's a literal grinder. You
it
see it.
yeah, we're like finally seeing this grinder and it just continuously gets more and more funny because Mondo Burger just begins to collapse and the burgers begin to explode.
Yeah, I
And then
love
we can't forget the burger falling from the roof that hits the car of Mr. Wheat, whose car has already been in quite some danger earlier in the movie.
Yeah, this is such a weird movie, and but like, there's there's one scene that we neglected to mention that I want to bring up
Oh, do it. I'm sorry.
when Keenan and Kel are dressed in drag. Thought.
Um, it was definitely a choice.
I thought that was so funny as a
I
kid.
wasn't expecting it at all.
I mean, and it's just so off center. Of course, I didn't know that that's what they were doing back then. But
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
are there any like uh funny scenes that or scenes that stood out to you before we move on with the plot? We're just about wrapped up with the plot, I think.
I just want to say that whole scene, the last scene that we just talked about with the exploding burgers and the police and everything, that was hilarious to me.
But it was also touching.
It
Like
was like a good wrap up. Like it felt like the perfect like end of the fever dream.
yeah. And one thing I want to mention, a little behind the scenes fact, is that there's a scene in the trailer that's not in the movie, and
Oh.
I'm still bummed about it. So there's a scene where a customer asks for a good shake, like a milkshake, and
Mm-hmm.
Ed literally picks him up and shakes him. Like
Hilarious. I
I was
wish they would have
just,
kept that in. That sounds
it's
hilarious.
so funny,
That's so funny. I love it.
but it's just so Ed. Um, and then um, another scene worth noting is the the sauce gets so popular that um, famous basketball star Shaquille O'Neal won some of it.
Oh my God. I was so slightly confused during that scene.
That scene with the slow motion and the music,
Yeah.
like, do you think that this movie would work now as is, or no?
I want to say yes, but I feel like the answer is just no. Like, I don't know what it is because I think it is funny. And I think that even in today's day and age, it's funny.
And
But
everything is so PC nowadays that they couldn't get away with the stuff that they did.
yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, I'm not sure that it would necessarily work in the sense that it did in 1997.
So, is there anything that you felt? I know, I've watched this movie so many times. Is there anything in this movie that you didn't really like or connect with, or even understand?
I don't know if I necessarily liked, like I've kind of mentioned, like the Dexter and Ed like agreement thing. Like I understand it's like a plot point and it's supposed to be like funny, but I
Yeah,
just thought that that one it was probably one of my least favorite
yeah.
like
I
parts of
mean,
it.
there's a there are a couple things where I'm like, uh, I feel like the Mondo Burger plot goes on for a bit too long.
Yeah, and I also am a little confused with the Demented Hills thing.
Oh, what?
Like, I mean, I understand like why they went there, but it just didn't sit like as something in
But
this
it
movie.
shows you how messed up that they are, that they would want them to go there.
Yeah, no, I understand why they went there. It's just like definitely a choice.
It's literally like, why? But yeah, I mean, this is a this is a movie that if you were there, you loved it, and but if you weren't there, you did not understand it at all.
Yeah, I feel like I am like in the middle with this movie where I did really enjoy that, but I feel like I would enjoy it more if like, this was like my prime like TV time.
Oh yeah, cause this was massive. Like there was a soundtrack for this movie. I have it. Like it's um there's they did a whole premiere in Hollywood. It was a big thing, and you know, but critics, like older people who didn't have kids that watched all that, they thought it was the worst movie of the year, which I get because you have nothing to base it on.
Yeah, I can see where like people would like not enjoy it, but I feel like this movie has a very like niche target audience
I know,
where
like,
me and you are like right in the target audience.
and I know. Okay, I know that it's not a good movie. I
Yeah.
know that. I know that. But there's something about it that brings me back to it,
Yeah.
and I watched this movie like way more than most people should, but it, I'm so glad I got to expose it to you.
Yes, thank you. I feel like there's sometimes when people pick these movies where I'm slightly concerned, and I was slightly concerned with this one, but I enjoyed loving it. And I'm so actually glad that you picked a movie that this felt like a right start in the new kind of version of That So Matthew that we've got going on over here.
Yeah, cause I'll be honest, picking a movie was kind of difficult for you because I have the added bonus of knowing you and working with you,
Yeah.
so I know what you like and sort of what you don't. So there were a lot of variables with me picking this film.
Yeah. No, I think that it was perfect. It was perfect. But it's not an episode of That So Matthew without a ranking
Okay,
out of 10. So I'm gonna have you go first. I have a feeling I know what you're gonna say.
okay. I'm gonna break it up into two.
Okay.
As a movie, like without any nostalgia value, 7 out of 10.
Okay. I like that.
But as far as like a nostalgic level, it's not even a ranking. It's just high up there. It's like comfort movies and movies that I just know that I could just
Mm-hmm.
put on and be, you know, laughing for like an hour or however long it is. Um, it's so good
For sure.
for that
Um,
for that type of thing.
I kind of have to give it kind of a similar way that you broke it down. So like I think that if I wasn't watching this for to do a podcast specifically with you, I'm not sure that it would have had such a impact, I guess, on my opinion. But I think that because you picked it knowing me and that it's for the podcast and just hearing what it means to you, I think that this brings this movie like up to an 8. Like, yeah, sure, it's not like the most amazing movie I've ever seen, but
No, definitely not.
it was enjoyable to watch. It was funny, and I think it had everything that I needed to like have to kind of break up this hectic life that I've been in just to sit down and watch this movie And it was just overall funny.
Yeah. And I have to just say this. Um Good Burger came into my life when I was like 3 or 4. The sketch, the movie, the whole thing. And I never thought that it would be like back in my life like this. Like with the all that reboot that happened, and
Yeah.
one of my first big interviews for the pod, like our second year into it with Kel,
Yeah.
and I talked to Ed in character. that was weird,
That I'm
but
sure was a time for sure.
it was like weird in the most comforting way because it's you you grow up watching these people and then they're just talking to you. It's pretty strange. But yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that I got to expose this to you. It's a weird choice, and I can't. I'm already inviting myself back.
Well, you know what? You don't have to invite yourself because I'm inviting you right now.
Okay, cool.
So, yes, I feel like this was a perfect start. So, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this episode and for welcoming That's So Matthew back as this new entity, which I'm so excited to explore. I've got some exciting episodes coming as I start to
Ooh,
record them.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, so look forward to at least an amazing month. And as I take this, rebrand step by step with some new Instagram posts, and as I slowly get to completely updating my website and everything, I just look
Now,
forward to this.
because I know you, do you feel refreshed?
I do. You know what? When I
I don't
recorded
know.
my
I don't know.
Christmas
I don't know if
special,
you. I don't know if you want to get into that here, but just
oh, I
because.
do. I just want to like say that like taking just a little bit of a break and going into a little bit of a different vibe here on the podcast has helped me feel like I'm ready. Cause I feel like I've heard this from so many podcasters that doing an episode every single week I think I did it for a year and a half. Like that is just insane. And I think that it was just, I needed just a moment and a couple weeks to just breathe and get back into it. And now that I'm back into it, I'm so glad and I just can't wait for what's to come.
I remember when you and I had a talk about like this, and you were not feeling it, and I said, "Look, you're gonna go through that, but you're gonna get back into it. People always do." And look, you're back.
We're back. We're back and better than ever. So I am so excited. If you want updates on all of the fun stuff that I have going on with the podcast, make sure to follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook at That's Matthew. Make sure to subscribe to me on YouTube. I'm a little bit behind on posting episodes on YouTube, but I think I'm just gonna get right back on into it. As well, check out my website, thatsmatthew.com for all of the fun updates and merch. And I'll be back with a brand new episode next week. Stay tuned.
Bye, guys.
Bye.